Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to Gaming on Board. Tonight we're going to take a look at a game that is scheduled to come out in Q1 of 2019. Everything you see will be print and play prototype. The game is still under public play testing and tweaks are being made here and there. There'll also be changes in artwork, etc. Just realize this is still a prototype very much. So let me read you some intro to give you a background on the theme of the game. Welcome to Elysium, the shining city of scraps. It's been 50 years since the war ended, and 230 since the war began. The city of Elysium stands bright and shining in a sea of ashes and rubble. Our grandparents lived in squalid bunkers from a bygone era. They salvaged war machines to fight the never-ending war started by people who had long since been dead and whose grievances had long since been forgotten. After 30 years, they never made the ground fertile, but they made it safe. We can walk the plains without hazard suits. We created the first terraformed city since the war, Elysium. So in yesterday's war, the Salvage, you and your friends play as salvage workers. The name of the game is Yesterday's War, the Salvage. You wander the wastelands looking for parts to scrap from what's left behind from the war. The entire city is built on scrap parts. The government issues contracts and salvage workers fill them with equipment borrowed from corporations. Your mission is to gather the materials to build the glorious city and impress your bosses, the suits of corporate Elysium, while you do it. So in this game, that's exactly what you're going to be doing. You're going to be taking up contracts from the government, collecting these scrap materials and filling the contracts and meeting certain objectives. So let's go down to the table. I'll show you what the print and play version looks like as of yesterday. A new version came out today, and it was right after I printed it out and cut it up. So I'll tell you what the differences are now, and I'll also put a link to the website down in the description of this video. So let's go down the table and let's check out Yesterday's War.
All right. So this is everything you will need to play a copy of the print and play Yesterday's War. Today's date is August, what's today? The 12th, I believe, 2018. So at the time of this recording, you can sign up for the Pangea Games newsletter and be given access to a print and play version of this game and help them out with this open play testing. Help them develop the best game that they can. So what we have here is a two-player game setup, right? So each player will have this scoring track card here, and you'll have 2 cubes to keep track of your score. You'll always have one on the 10s and then one on the 1s, but they both start out on the 0, and then as you score, go up to 9, you'll slide this down to 10, and then 11, 12, and so on like that. Each player will have a player aid. It's double-sided and it shows you the 4 phases of play. I had to mark something out here because this rule has actually changed, and this was left there, so that will be changing. I'll go over those actions as we move along. So, and each player will also have 4 mechs. I'm just using scythe pieces here. You'll have to find some replacements for all these pieces if you do decide to download this. So yeah, there's my 4 mechs. Each player gets 4. And then 1 more cube, because you'll use that to choose your objective once those come out. So each player has everything I just mentioned, and then each player gets to choose a character card. And there are 4 characters at the time of filming. And like I said, I don't have the newer version, but in the newer version it's got nice, pretty text down here that says once there are no more objectives in this deck, I think it's when there's only 3 objectives remaining, then your special ability kicks in. So this player gets a $2 discount on purchasing contracts. This character gets to put out 3 mechs per turn instead of 2. This one gets 4 money per turn instead of 2. And this character gets 2 fewer resources it requires 2 fewer resources on contracts. So we're going to play with these two. Put your character card down there, return any unused to the box. And for a 2-player game, we will remove 2 random objectives. And I'll use the 2 to show you what these look like. So there's going to be 3 objectives out here because we're playing a 2-player game. So it's the number of players plus 1. If we were playing a 4-player game, there'd be 5 out there. But alas, it is a 2-player game. So, oh, and I forgot to mention, this plays from 1 to 4 players. So we are at the 2-player level. This is objective number 6. I believe in the newer version, these objectives are going to have specific names. But here's one example. Complete 3 contracts. You will get this card, put it face down. At the end of the game, you'll get 6 victory points. This one, hold 8 energy anywhere in contracts or your supply. Put this down. At the end of the game, you'll get 5 victory points, and so on and so forth. So there are, in this 2-player game, there's going to be 7 objectives because there's 9 total we removed 2. And then these are the contracts. So again, in the newer version, these contracts will have specific names and more information instead of just contract 20. But this one in particular costs 3 E-credits to buy. When you do buy it, you immediately receive 2 metal, and the condition to complete it is 2 E-credits, 4 energy, and you have to have all 3 of these mech spaces occupied by your mechs. So there's a bunch of there's 20 contracts and 4 raiders, and I'll show you what the raiders do. Let me just let me rig this deck here so we get to see a little bit of everything. Okay, so on your turn, each player in turn order. Oh yeah, also this, I'm using this as the first player marker. So you just, whoever, what was it? The last person to go to a junkyard is the first player. Otherwise you just choose it randomly. So we'll just say green will go first because I play with green and I want to go first. But you'll do each of these phases. So phase 1, first player will go, and then in turn order, everybody will complete phase 1. Phase 2, first player will go, then everybody will complete phase 2 in turn order, and so on and so forth. So phase 1, we're going to gain 2 credits. I'm sorry, I forgot. I totally forgot. You will need some money. I'm using 1s, 3s, and 5s from Scythe. And everybody starts with 5 E-credits and 2 of each resource, which is energy and metal. So there's our starting resources. Now, on the start of your phase 1, you'll gain 2 more E-credits. Then you can, also as part of the setup, in turn order, we were supposed to choose which objective we wanted to go for. So I'll go there and there. So this one's hold, oh my gosh, there we go. This one's hold 10 E-credits. This one is get 2 bonus rolls on raiders. I'll show you what that is. This one is hold 8 metal. So anyways, that's what I missed during the setup. Then on your turn you'll get 2 E-credits. You can sweep or drop contracts or switch objectives. So there's going to be contracts out equal to the number of players plus 1. Oh, a raider came out. As soon as a raider comes out, you put 1 of each resource on there. So 1 energy, 1 metal. And the newer version has a really cool raider artwork on there. It's not just a red card with a brown back. It looks really cool. And the Wasteland, which I'll show you shortly, also has some really cool art on it. Anyway, so when a raider comes out, you put 1 of each resource on there. And like I said, you can sweep or drop contracts. So sweep means you see how many contracts are out, and if you want, you can pay 1 E-credit for each contract that's out and remove it. So it goes to the discard pile. and then replace them with 2 new ones. So if there's something out there that you don't want your opponent to get, or they just don't look good to you, you can sweep them. But you always have to sweep all contracts that are out. You can't just sweep one because you know it's bad for your opponent. You have to sweep all contracts, and they're 1 credit each. So I just paid 2, sweep the contracts. If I wanted to, if I already had a contract that I purchased before, I could pay 2 E-credits to discard that contract. And then you can also, on your turn, pay 2 E-credits to switch objectives. So if I wanted to abandon this get 2 bonus rolls on raiders and switch to hold 8 metal, I could pay 2 E-credits and switch my objective over to here. But I'm not going to do that. So once you've decided if you want to sweep the contracts, drop a contract, or switch objectives, you can purchase up to 3 contracts. And like I showed you before, the price of a contract is right here in the top left. So I'll go ahead and buy this one. And that cost me 1. So I'll turn in 1. This is mine. When I buy it, I immediately get this bonus. So I'll go ahead and grab 2 metal. These are Terraforming Mars cubes, if you were wondering. And that would be the end. Unless I wanted to buy more contracts, I'll flip the next one up. That one costs 6. This one costs 2. I think I want to hang on to my money because my objective doesn't have anything to do with contracts right now. But so yeah, that would be the end of player 1's phase 1. Now player 2's phase 1. They would get 2 E-credits. They could sweep or drop, purchase contracts. They're trying to hold 10 E-credits. So yeah, I think they're just going to stay where they're at. So that's the end of phase 1. Phase 2, player 1. You can place up to 2 mechs and assign any of your resources in your supply to your contracts. So this contract requires 1 E-credit, 4 metal, and 1 energy. And of course, 2 mechs. So I'll go ahead and put an E-credit on there. I have 4 metal and 1 energy. So see, me buying that contract is actually what enabled me to fill that requirement. So that's something to think about too. And then I can place up to 2 mechs. So I'm going to go to the Wasteland. And the way the Wasteland works is, if you go in a 2-player game, this is what it's going to look like. You can go here to try to get 2 energy, or here to try to get 2 metal, or here to try to get 1 of each. And 3-4-player games, it's going to look like this. So there'll be more places to go and really good spots. But anyways, 2-player game here. I'll place 1 on the 2 energy, so I can try to get a couple energy out of the Wasteland. And I'll tell you what happens there when we get there. And then I'll place 1 of my mechs on the Raider card. The way the Raider card works is they're going to raid us. They're going to attack us every turn. And if they're successful, they're going to steal stuff from our supplies. They can't steal resources that are already assigned to contracts, but they can steal resources from your supply. So each of us is going to have to fight the raider, or roll for the raiders to see if they take anything. And then once we've rolled for the raiders, we're going to distribute energy in the order of mechs that are here. So if there was a green here, a blue here, a green here, and there was 3 energy, green would get 1, then blue would get the next one, and then green would get the next one. And then you do the same thing for metal. So the earlier you get there, the more you're guaranteed to get something. And then if you have 2 of your mechs on the same raider card, you can actually roll the die and possibly get more resources. But I'll show you that here. So yeah, he's done assigning resources to his contracts. He moved 2 of his mechs. And now it's phase 2, player 2. Same exact thing. He has no contracts, so he won't be doing any of that. But he is going to put 2 mechs on this raider card. And the reason that he's going to put 2 mechs is because his objective... Oh wait, I'm sorry, that was green. I have this backwards. So let's just say green put 2 there. and blue put one here. The reason green would put 2 here is because get 2 bonus rolls on raiders. It doesn't matter if you succeed on the bonus roll or not. It's just if you make 2 rolls on raiders, you'll complete this objective. So let's see here. So player 2 is done assigning their mechs. That's the end of phase 2. Now back to player 1, phase 3. We roll for the raiders. So each player has to roll a 6-sided die. On a 1, 2, or a 3, they're safe. On a 4, 5, or 6, the raiders take 1 of each resource from them if they're able to. And it goes to that raider card, which will later be dispersed amongst the people that are there. So it's pretty big. So green rolled a 6, so the raiders are going to steal whatever green has, which is just 1 energy. Now blue rolled a 1, he's safe. Alright, so that was roll for raiders. Now we're going to fight the raiders, and as long as there's at least 1 mech there, they have been fought and defeated. So first, green will get an energy, then green will get an energy, and blue will not because there's no more energy. Next, green will get a medal. All the medal's gone. Because green has 2 mechs there, he gets to roll the 6-sided die. On a 4, 5, a 1, 2, or 3, I would get 2 additional metal and 2 additional energy. But on a 4, 5, or a 6, you get nothing. So, you know, you're basically using up your 2 mech movements in hopes of getting, you know, a lot more resources. So, unfortunately, in that case, nothing came of it. So the raiders are defeated. Immediately replace it with a new card. So that was fight raiders. Next we're going to roll for the wasteland. So anybody that's at the wasteland gets 1 E credit for each mech they have there. So blue has 1, blue's going to get 1 E credit. And then again, they're going to roll the die. On a 1, 2, or a 3, they get whatever benefit is printed there. In this case it's 2 energy. And then they have the choice to leave the mech there or retrieve it. If I had rolled a 4, 5, or a 6, I would not get the benefit, and I'd be forced to return the mech back. Also, no player can ever have more than 2 mechs at the wasteland. Alright, so that was roll for wasteland. Now we're going to fill contracts, starting with player 1. If player 1 had any contracts that were complete, he does not. Still need 2 mechs on these spots to complete this contract. If there were mechs there, I would remove all the resources, remove the mechs, and I would gain this reward. So I'd gain 3 points. Let's just say I did. 1, 2, 3. And then this contract would go to the discard pile. And that would be the end of phase 3. Oops, sorry, phase 3, fill contracts. Phase 4, you can exchange resources. And the way exchanging resources is 3 metal or 3 energy is equal to 1 E credit. 3 metal can be exchanged for 1 energy, or 3 energy can be exchanged for 1 metal. Also, let's see. I believe you can spend 3 E credits. No, I don't think it works that way. It's 3 energy for 1 metal, or 3 metal for 1 energy, or 3 energy for E credit, or 3 metal for an E credit. Yeah, that's it. So the resources are 3 to 1 exchange, and then the resources can also be exchanged in sets of 3 for 1 E credit. So that would be the first step of phase 4. Second step of phase 4 is receive objective cards. So if, oh, and by the way, when I rolled for bonus on that raider, I should have put it on the 1 here because that was my first bonus roll for raiders. So let's just say that was my second, and now we're on this phase. This is complete. It would go over here face down to be scored at the end of the game. And then if blue, also once the objective is completed, you reveal a new objective, and then you can immediately choose a new objective that's available. Also, it's important to note that 2 players can have their cube on the same objective. And if there's ever a tie, I believe the tiebreaker is whoever has the most E credits. So if we both were holding at least 10 E credits, and at the same time for this particular objective, then there would be a tie. Let's just say I had 11 and he only had 10. I would take that objective because technically we completed it at the same time. But that's the important thing, is the exchange happens before completing objectives. So if he saw that I had 11 and he had like 6 energy sitting here in his supply, he could turn in those 6 energy for 2 E credits, and now he's 1 more than me, which breaks the tie. So he would take that instead of me. So that is receive objective cards if complete. And then the first player would go over in a clockwise order. And then you do all that over and over again. When this deck's empty and there's only 3 objectives out, 3 objectives left in the game, these bottom abilities come into play. And at the end of the round, when there's only 1 objective left in the game, that's when the game ends. All players will reveal their completed objectives, gain the victory points for that, and then whoever has the most victory points is the winner. So there you go. There's a first look at yesterday's war. This, like I said, this is the print and play prototype version. I've played it probably 4 or 5 times now, and I feel like it gets better the more you play it. You know, you need to play it a couple times to get the feel for it, and this is still, you know, in the development phase. They're still looking for ways to balance it better, maybe new abilities. I'm just, you know, basically making stuff up here. I'm just guessing what they're probably thinking. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be a lot of game in a little box. I can't say that it's super duper thematic, but if you read the intro story, it makes sense. You're trying to fill contracts. But it is kind of abstract. It'd be less abstract if I had the actual artwork on here, because you get the feel for the wasteland, you get the feel for the raiders, and it does feel like they're raiding you. They're coming in and taking your stuff, you know. But then you get to go back and send your mechs in, and if you commit enough mechs to it, you could get all your stuff back and then some. So it's got more theme than I initially thought it did. So anyways, that was yesterday's war by Pangea Games. Thanks to Pangea Games for putting this out there for us to play, test, print, and play. And they've been really responsive. I've asked questions about the rules. They immediately come back. They are looking for our feedback, guys. So again, this is August 2018. Depending on when you view this, you could probably still go print it out, play it, and give us some feedback and get the best game we possibly can. All right. Again, check out yesterday's war link down in the description. I'll also put a link to Pangea Games' Facebook page there. Be sure to check out Gaming on Board on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And hit that like and subscribe button. Be sure to share these videos. We have almost 200 other videos. Go and check out some of our older stuff. And thanks again. As always, thank you for watching, and play all the games.